Through extensive research, we've put together the 5 best graphics cards under $400 available on the market in 2022. Links for all of the GPUs mentioned in this video will be in the description box below. Number 5. Excellent Budget 1080p Card. The first graphics card to keep your eye out for is Asus TUF model of the GTX 1660 Ti. This card has a very similar average performance benchmark when compared to its peer, the 1660 Super, and is one of the best 1080p cards for the money. If you're gunning for one version of the 1660 or the other, it wouldn't be a bad call to leave the decision to whichever card you can find a better deal for on any given day of the month or even week. When we look at their benchmarks, the two cards trade blows back and forth depending on what particular metric is in question. We'll summarize the major differences here to help you make sure you're making an informed decision. To start, the 1660 Ti has a higher core clock speed than the 1660 Super. This means that the actual process of rendering is just a little bit faster. However, the specifications of the 1660 Super include faster memory speed. One card isn't simply straight up better than the other. Generally speaking, the faster core clock speed of the 1660 Ti is going to lend itself well to rendering in 1080p. When you up the resolution to 1440p, the 1660 Ti starts to experience memory bottlenecks, and the 1660 Super will start to pull ahead. As long as you're sticking to 1080p, the 1660 Ti is generally speaking going to outperform the 1660 Super by a small margin. We do see a handful of cases where this isn't true, with Fortnite being the most popular example. The 1660 Ti also, generally speaking, tends to command a higher price tag. Asus has taken the reins with overclocking this card, guaranteeing a potential core clock speed of at least 1845 MHz. They've also included the GPU Tweak 2 software to steer you along with a safe and simple custom overclocking experience. At factory settings, Asus cooling setup is built to keep heat levels low. You shouldn't run into any thermal problems until you start pushing the limits of its overclocking potential. In most cases, the potential longevity of the newer 1660 Super and predominantly lower cost is going to make it the better option. Nevertheless, if you're set on sticking to 1080p and find its price to be suitable, the 1660 Ti is still a worthy contender. Number 4. Best 3000 series GPU under $400. Are you surprised to see one of NVIDIA's most recent GPUs only on the 4th spot? We're just as surprised to be putting it here. The GPU market is currently a bit, well, wacky to say the least. In another reality, this card might be receiving a glowing recommendation. Unfortunately, a handful of present factors and circumstances create a few reservations. We'll be most directly comparing the RTX 3050 to the RTX 2060, since these are the only cards in this video that offer ray tracing. Ray tracing capabilities are where this card really shines. With significantly more CUDA cores, reflections, shadows, and texture shading is going to render more realistically with the 3050. On top of having more CUDA cores, these second-generation cores are better optimized. In addition to the 3050's ray tracing effectiveness, NVIDIA's Ampere architecture has made a substantial leap forward in power efficiency. While its max thermals and max power consumption remain comparable to previous architectures, Ampere distributes power much more efficiently at low to medium GPU load. Furthermore, this card includes 8 GB of GDDR6 VRAM. It can load textures and assets very quickly, and can keep a lot of them primed and ready to render all at once. The chip itself isn't quite built to handle any resolution higher than 1080p, but this can still come in handy with games that want to put a lot of different entities on your screen at the same time. When it comes to average performance, the 3 graphics cards that we've placed higher in this video tend to be more reliable. It's settling in just a bit below what we'd typically recommend for a smooth 1440p experience, but does hold up great when it comes to 1080p. Competitive games will have you comfortably sitting around 100 FPS. And more demanding games shouldn't be dropping very far below 60 FPS very often, if they even do at all. In addition, Gigabyte's cover includes 3 of their highly reliable WindForce fans to keep thermals in check. 2 display ports and 2 HDMI ports allow for 4 simultaneous monitor connections. To top everything off, an aluminum backplate preserves this very long card's structural integrity. With all that being said, The Gigabyte GeForce RTX 3050 Gaming OC is a great affordable graphics card that offers great 1080p performance and better optimized power delivery compared to previous generations. We highly recommend you buy this card if you can find it around the $320 mark. Number 3. Perfect 1080p card for compact builds. NVIDIA's 1600 series release was a bit of a unique one. In late 2018, NVIDIA introduced their RTX technology with the 2000 series of GPUs. Not long after, in early 2019, they followed up with the 1660 and 1650 models. With the 2000 series gearing towards 1440p rendering and emphasizing the potential of ray tracing, the 1600s were fashioned to appeal to buyers who are interested in a brand new card but satisfied with the quality of gaming at 1080p. Later on, towards the end of 2019, they added the 1660 Super to the lineup. The GTX 1660 Super is actually identical to the regular 1660 in every aspect except for memory speed. Doubling the memory speed of the 1660, the Super solves some of the bottlenecking issues that have become apparent with the original model's slower memory. Given that the 1660 Super's price only suffers a small markup from the 1660, it would be difficult to ever justify purchasing the normal 1660 instead of the Super version. Because ray tracing is a relatively new technology, there are many cases where its absence won't even make a difference. As of April 2022, there are fewer than 60 video games available that support ray tracing. There are certainly a lot more to come, but it's probably a good decision to see if your favorite games are RTX compatible before making your mind up about its value. In terms of aesthetics, it might have a bit more display value with its sleek black stealth-like design, but with its lack of RGB elements, it won't be showing off your flair for color. Its rear I/O comes equipped with 3 display ports and only 1 HDMI port. If you're wanting to connect more than one monitor with HDMI, you'll want to make sure you also have an adapter cable handy. Zotac has bundled the components of this excellent price-performance-oriented card into a very compact package. Dual fans adopting state-of-the-art airflow design principles will also keep this card's thermals relatively low under normal conditions. Even under high load, this setup isn't going to be particularly noisy. It will fit snugly into most modern PC builds, even being suitable for mini ITX cases and motherboards. Overall, the Zotac GTX 1660 Super is an excellent graphics card for compact builds designed for 1080p gaming. And as it stands today, this GPU offers the best price-to-performance ratio out of the 1600 series lineup while staying below the $400 mark. Number 2. Best AMD graphics card under $400. Representatives of Team Red will be happy to see an AMD card making second in our top 5. In terms of average performance, it's hot on the heels of our first choice. The difference will be imperceptible in many cases, only ever losing out by a couple of frames. Fortunately for Gigabyte's Radeon RX 6600 Eagle, average performance benchmarks aren't the only factor worth considering when buying a new GPU. The RX 6600 offers a few features that make it a viable choice over the RTX 2060, our number 1 pick. The first thing to note is that the RX 6600 boasts a bit more VRAM than the RTX 2060. The RTX 2060 only has 6 GB of VRAM, while the RX 6600 comes equipped with 8 GB. When it comes to gaming at 1080p, this isn't usually going to make any difference. However, at 1440p, the difference can make or break your gaming experience. In terms of dimensions, it's just a bit longer than the RTX 2060. But that isn't where you'll run into issues with most builds. It is, however, significantly shorter and thinner, so if you've got a smaller case or are working with a micro ATX motherboard, you're less likely to run into issues fitting it in. Due to its longer and thinner face dimensions, the card comes equipped with 3 smaller fans. The fans are more than enough to keep the card nice and cool while it's being put to work under heavy load. Unless you're getting into some extreme overclocking, thermals should never be a concern. In an age past, AMD graphics cards might have been regarded as the lower-end alternative to NVIDIA's more expensive premium hardware. Today, however, that simply isn't the case. AMD clearly wasn't content with its underdog status, and now we're seeing its potential to stay competitive at just about every price point. And the RX 6600 Eagle is a perfect example of that. Number 1. Best graphics card under $400 overall. If you're looking to keep your GPU budget under $400 while making as few compromises as possible, then this custom RTX 2060 card by Asus might just be the card of your dreams. Whether you're wanting to immerse yourself in the marvel of virtual reality, augment your competitive edge with higher refresh rates, or appreciate the artistry of modern AAA titles in high resolution, this card has you covered, for the most part. Despite the RTX 2060 being an older generation GPU, it packs the performance to maintain its relevance in 2022. In most cases, we're even seeing it outshine newer cards that fall within the same price range. As an RTX card, it's also recent enough to be able to utilize ray tracing technology in compatible games. At 1080p, you can expect to be playing most competitive games with more than 100 FPS. Older titles like CSGO will even clock in at well over 200 FPS. If you're looking to up your resolution to 1440p and experience some of the best graphics gaming has to offer, this card will keep your gameplay smooth at a comfortable average of 60 to 70 FPS. Only when it comes to the most taxing titles will this card start struggling to produce high frame rates. With that being said, even games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey can still be rendered at more than 30 FPS. In terms of cooling, Asus dual fan configuration and robust heat piping will keep your thermals low even when you're squeezing every bit of performance out of it you can. Even better, the fans are programmed to remain idle under 55 degrees Celsius and even manage to be quieter than most cards when they are spinning. To top it off, it has a quality aluminum plate backing to make sure nothing bends. In terms of connecting your monitors, the card has 2 HDMI ports, 1 DisplayPort, and 1 DVI-D port. With everything this card offers, it's hard to find much in the way of faults. However, there are a couple of reasons why some buyers might look elsewhere for their perfect budget-friendly GPU. First off, the card is quite large. If you aren't working it into an ATX build with at least a mid-tower case, you might run into trouble cramming it in with your other components. It also wasn't designed with aesthetics in mind. Unless you enjoy a simple utilitarian style and aren't too interested in RGB elements, you probably won't find much display value in this card. Despite some shortcomings, this overclocked RTX 2060 from Asus is an excellent choice for budget-oriented builds in 2022. It's perfect for 1080p gaming, and even puts 1440p gaming on the table. If you're set on staying under $400 but want to get as much power as you can, then the Asus GeForce RTX 2060 OC is where you'll want to put your money. Alright guys, these were the top 5 graphics cards under $400 currently available on the market. Be sure to check out the description to find the most up-to-date prices of all the GPUs mentioned in this video. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. If you're new to the channel and like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. We do our best to keep you up to date with the best products on the market, so if you want to stay updated on the best gear, make sure to hit that subscribe button.